My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm 28 years old. I never thought I'd be sitting here in this sterile hotel room writing about the moment my entire world collapsed. But here I am, fingers trembling as I type these words, trying to make sense of what happened just 3 days ago. I always believed I was the lucky one. Born into the Mitchell family, I grew up surrounded by what seemed like unconditional love. My parents, Robert and Margaret, were pillars of our small community in Cedar Falls. Dad owned the most successful law firm in town, while Mom ran a charity foundation that helped underprivileged children. My older brother David was a respected surgeon, and my younger sister Emma was finishing her PhD in psychology. We were the picture-perfect family that everyone admired. Growing up, I was the artistic one, the dreamer who painted watercolors and wrote poetry, while my siblings excelled in traditional careers. I pursued my passion for art therapy, working with trauma survivors at the local hospital. My family seemed proud of my choice, always bragging about how I was making a difference and following my heart. Every Sunday we gathered for dinner at my parents' sprawling Victorian home. The dining room would fill with laughter, stories about our week, and what felt like genuine warmth. Mom would always make my favorite apple pie, and Dad would tell embarrassing stories about his cases. David would share updates from the hospital, and Emma would excitedly discuss her research. I felt blessed to be part of this tight-knit circle. Last month, everything seemed normal. I had just gotten engaged to Michael, a wonderful man I'd been dating for 3 years. His family was thrilled, immediately diving into wedding plans. Mom started talking about venues. Emma offered to help with the psychology of planning a stress-free ceremony. And David joked about giving the most embarrassing best man speech in history. But then came the phone call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening when my phone rang. I was at home, working on a painting for my upcoming exhibition, when I saw Emma's name on the screen. Her voice sounded strange, almost mechanical when she spoke. "Sarah, we need to talk. All of us. Can you come to Mom and Dad's house tomorrow evening? It's important." Something in her tone made my stomach drop. "Is everything okay? Is someone sick?" "Just ... please come. 7 o'clock. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in confusion. I tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. I called David. He gave me the same cryptic message. Even my parents seemed evasive when I reached out to them. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced through possibilities. Was someone dying? Had there been a financial crisis? Was there some family secret I didn't know about? I kept thinking about how strange everyone had been acting lately. How conversations seemed to stop when I entered rooms. How there were whispered phone calls that ended abruptly when I appeared. The next evening, I arrived at my parents' house with a knot in my stomach. The familiar warmth of the home felt different somehow, colder despite the unchanged decor. Everyone was already gathered in the living room, sitting in a semicircle that felt more like a tribunal than a family meeting. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed, as if she'd been crying. Dad sat stiffly in his favorite leather chair, his lawyer mask firmly in place. David avoided my gaze entirely, staring at his hands. Emma looked directly at me with an expression I'd never seen before, a mixture of pity and something else I couldn't quite identify. "Sit down, Sarah," Dad said, his voice lacking its usual warmth. I chose the couch across from them, feeling like I was facing a panel of judges rather than my beloved family. The silence stretched uncomfortably until Mom finally spoke. "Sweetheart, there's something we need to tell you. Something we should have told you a long time ago." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I could feel my heart hammering against my ribs as I waited for someone to continue. The grandfather clock in the corner seemed to tick louder than usual, each second stretching into an eternity. "What is it?" I managed to whisper, my voice barely audible. Dad cleared his throat, a sound that usually preceded his closing arguments. "In court, Sarah, you know we love you. Everything we've done has been out of love." You're scaring me, I said, looking around the room at faces that suddenly seemed like strangers. Just tell me what's going on. Emma leaned forward, her psychologist training evident in her carefully measured tone. Sarah, do you remember when you were 7 and you got really sick? That summer when you were in the hospital for weeks? I nodded slowly. It was a foggy memory, more like fragments of dreams than actual recollections. I remembered being very weak, my parents taking turns staying with me, and a lot of doctors and nurses. The doctors said it was some kind of rare infection, right? The look that passed between my family members sent ice through my veins. David finally spoke, his surgeon's precision cutting through the air. It wasn't an infection, Sarah. You had leukemia. The room spun slightly. What? No, that's not. You told me it was an infection. We lied, Mom said, her voice breaking. We thought it would be easier for you to understand. You were so young, and we didn't want you to be afraid. I tried to process this information, but I got better. It's fine now. You got better because of the treatment, Dad said carefully. The chemotherapy, the bone marrow transplant. Bone marrow transplant. The words felt foreign in my mouth. I would remember something like that. You were very sick, Emma said gently. The doctors said you might not remember everything clearly because of the trauma and the medications. I felt like I was falling through space. It's 21 years of my life, and I was just now learning that I'd had cancer as a child. Why are you telling me this now? The silence that followed was deafening. Dad shifted in his chair, and I caught a glimpse of something in his expression that made my blood run cold. It wasn't the look of a father protecting his daughter, it was the look of a lawyer about to deliver devastating news. Sarah, he began, his voice taking on that professional tone I'd heard him use with difficult clients. The bone marrow transplant, it came from David. I looked at my brother, who was still staring at his hands. David was my donor. Yes, David said quietly. I was a perfect match. Something warm flickered in my chest. Despite the shock of learning about my childhood illness, the thought that my brother had saved my life filled me with gratitude. David, I thank you. I can't believe you never told me. But instead of the smile I expected, David's expression grew even more pained. I looked around the room again, and that's when I noticed it. The way they were all looking at me wasn't with love or concern. It was with something that looked almost like guilt. There's more, Mom said, her voice barely above a whisper. The warmth in my chest turned to ice. More what? Dad pulled out a manila folder from beside his chair, the kind he used for his most important cases. Sarah, the bone marrow transplant wasn't just about saving your life. It was about testing something. Testing what? A new experimental treatment, Emma said, her psychological training failing her as her voice cracked. Dad had connections at the medical research facility. They were looking for compatible siblings for a study on enhanced bone marrow transplants. The room was spinning faster now. What kind of study? They were testing whether bone marrow from genetically modified donors could not only cure leukemia, but also enhance certain cognitive and physical abilities in recipients. David said, finally looking up at me. I wasn't just your donor, Sarah. I was genetically modified specifically to be your donor. I stood up abruptly, my legs shaking. What are you talking about? That's impossible. That's science fiction. It's not fiction, Dad said, opening the folder. The Prometheus Project was a classified government research program. They were creating super soldiers, enhanced humans who could heal faster, think quicker, and perform beyond normal human capabilities. You're all insane, I said, backing toward the door. This is some kind of sick joke. Look at yourself, Sarah, Emma said sadly. You've never been sick a day since you were 7. You learn new skills impossibly fast. You can stay awake for days when you're working on a project. You can see in the dark better than most people. You heal from cuts and bruises in hours instead of days. The weight of my decision hung in the air between us. I could see the fear in their eyes, the desperate hope that I would choose safety over truth. But something deep inside me, something that might have been part of the enhancement, or might have been purely human, refused to let me run without answers. I need time to think, I said finally. This is too much to process all at once. We don't have time, Dad said urgently. They expect you to report tomorrow morning. If you don't show up, they'll come looking. Then I'll show up, Sarah. No. Mom grabbed my arm. You can't seriously be considering turning yourself in. I'm not turning myself in. I'm buying us time. I pulled away from her grip. If I report as ordered, act compliant. Maybe I can learn more about what they're planning. Maybe I can find out about the other subjects. It's too dangerous, David said. Once you're in their custody, we might never see you again. And if I run without knowing the truth, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering who I really am. I'll always be looking over my shoulder, always wondering if there are others like me out there who need help. Others like you are dead, Emma said bluntly. According to the pattern we found, the government has been systematically eliminating the Prometheus subjects for years. Then someone needs to stop them. Someone needs to, but not you, Dad said. You're not responsible for saving the world, Sarah. You're just trying to save yourself. But what if I am responsible? I asked. What if the reason I survived when others didn't wasn't just luck? What if I'm supposed to do something about this? That's the enhancement talking, Emma said, slipping back into her psychologist's role. Enhanced individuals often develop messiah complexes. A sense that they're destined for greatness or responsible for solving problems beyond their scope. Or maybe it's just basic human decency, I shot back. If I have abilities others don't. If I have knowledge that could help people, shouldn't I use it? Not if it gets you killed. I walked to the window again, looking out at the peaceful street. Somewhere out there, other people like me might be hiding, running, or already dead. Somewhere, the people responsible for turning children into weapons were continuing their work, probably with new victims. I need to go home, I said. I need to think about this alone. Sarah, please, Mom said, tears streaming down her face. Don't do anything rash. We love you. We just want to keep you safe. I know, I said, turning back to them. And I love you too. Whatever happens, I want you to know that. You raised me. You shaped who I am. You loved me when you could have. Just seen me as an experiment. That means everything. Then stay with us, Dad pleaded. Let us protect you. I'll call you tomorrow, I said, after I've had time to think. I left them sitting in that living room, probably planning their own escape whether I joined them or not. The drive home was surreal. Everything looked the same, but I felt like I was seeing it through different eyes. The eyes of Emma Rose Sullivan, the eyes of Subject 47, the eyes of someone who wasn't quite human. My apartment felt strange too, like I was visiting someone else's life. All my paintings on the walls, my books, my comfortable furniture, they belonged to Sarah Mitchell, the woman who had died in her parents' living room an hour ago. I was someone else now, someone I didn't understand yet. I sat at my easel, looking at the half-finished painting I'd been working on. This was a landscape of the mountains outside town, painted in soft, warm colors that now seemed naively optimistic. I picked up a brush and began adding darker elements, shadows in the trees, storm clouds gathering on the horizon, a sense of something hidden and threatening. As I painted, my mind wandered to the other subjects. How many had there been? How many children had been taken from their families, modified, and used as experiments? How many had died during the procedures? How many had been eliminated later to cover up the program's existence? The enhancement Emma had mentioned, intuitive. Adaptation was working now. I could feel it happening as I painted, my hand moving with more precision than it ever had before. The brush felt like an extension of my thoughts, creating details I hadn't consciously planned. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. My phone rang, startling me out of my trance. Michael's name appeared on the screen. Hello, Sarah. I need to see you. His voice was strained, different from the man I'd fallen in love with. "I heard you already know everything. Can I come over? We need to talk." I almost said no. The man I'd planned to marry had walked away the moment he learned what I was. What was there to talk about? But something in his tone made me reconsider. "Fine, but I don't have long." 20 minutes later, he was at my door. Michael looked terrible, his hair disheveled, his eyes red, his usual confidence completely gone. He sat on my couch like he was afraid to touch anything. "They told me everything," he said without preamble. "About the program, about what you are, about the recall order, and you decided you couldn't handle it. I decided I needed to understand it." "What's to understand? I'm a freak. It's a government experiment. Not really human. End of story." Not true, isn't it? I turned to face him. "Look at me, Michael. Really look at me. I'm not the woman you fell in love with. I never was. You are exactly the woman I fell in love with," he said firmly. "Enhanced or not, modified or not, you're the same person who stayed up all night holding my hand when my mother was dying. You're the same person who painted a portrait of my nephew that made my sister cry with joy. You're the same person who challenges me to be better, who makes me laugh, who makes me want to be a better man. But I'm not human." "You're human enough," he said. "You feel love, you feel pain, you have hopes and dreams and fears. What makes you human isn't your DNA, it's your heart." I wanted to believe him, but the doubt was overwhelming. "The government doesn't see it that way. They see me as property." "Then we fight them." "We? Yes, we. I'm not walking away from you, Sarah." I was shocked. I needed time to process, but I'm not walking away. It's dangerous. You stay with me, you'll be running for the rest of your life. Then we run together. For the first time in hours, I felt a spark of hope. Michael wasn't perfect. He'd needed time to come to terms with the truth about me. But he was here now, willing to face whatever came next. "There's something else," he said. "I've been doing research since yesterday. If I have contacts in the military, people who might be able to help us understand what's really happening with the Prometheus project." "What kind of contacts?" "People who've been tracking illegal government programs for years. They think the recall order might not be about reactivating the program. It might be about something else entirely." "What?" "They think someone is selling the enhancement technology to foreign governments, and they need to eliminate all the existing subjects to cover their tracks." The full horror of the situation crashed over me like a tidal wave. I wasn't just being recalled, I was being eliminated. The family I'd trusted, the life I'd built, the future I'd planned, all of it was built on lies, and now it was crumbling around me. "So what you're telling me," I said, my voice eerily calm, "is that I'm not really your daughter? I'm not really human. The government wants to kill me. And the man I love has abandoned me. Is that about right? Sarah, ... Mom reached for me, but I pulled away. "Don't touch me." The words came out harder than I intended. I need to know everything. No more lies, no more protection. If I'm going to die, I want to know who I really am. Dad pulled out more papers from the folder. "We've been investigating for 5 years. We've found some things, but not everything." "Tell me, your name wasn't Sarah when you came to us. It was Subject 47. You were 6 years old, and according to the files we could access, you'd been in the program for 2 years already. 2 years?" I tried to remember anything from before I was 7, but there was only darkness. Where was? Before you adopted me, a facility in Montana. They called it the greenhouse. It was where they kept the child subjects between procedures. Other children, yes, dozens of them. Most didn't survive the enhancement process. I felt sick, but I did. "You were special," Emma said. "According to the files, you were the most successful subject they'd ever had. The modifications took hold perfectly. You showed enhanced healing, improved cognitive function, increased physical abilities, and something they called intuitive adaptation, the ability to quickly master new skills. That's why they want me back, I said. I'm their success story, yes, but also why they want to eliminate you, David said. You're evidence of what they did. Evidence that could bring down powerful people if it ever came to light. What about you? I asked him. If they modified you to be my donor, aren't you evidence too? The modifications I received were temporary, he said. They were designed to last only long enough for the transplant procedure. Most of them have. Worn off by now, except for some lingering health effects. But I'm stuck with mine forever. As far as we know, yes. I stood up again, pacing to the window. Outside, the street looked normal. People walking their dogs, kids playing in yards, the ordinary life of a small town. But I wasn't part of that world anymore. I never really had been. You said you found some things about my past. What else? Dad hesitated. We found a record of your original identity before the program. My heart stopped. Who was I? Your name was Emma Rose Sullivan. You were born in Portland, Oregon, on March 15th, 1995. Emma Rose Sullivan, I repeated. The name felt strange on my tongue, but somehow familiar. What happened to my family? Your parents were killed in what was reported as a home invasion when you were 4. You were taken to a foster home, but according to the records, you were never officially placed for adoption. They took me from foster care. It appears so. The foster family reported you missing, but the investigation was closed after a week with no leads. Do I have any other family, grandparents, aunts, uncles? We found some possibilities, but we haven't been able to verify them. Emma Rose Sullivan had maternal grandparents in Seattle, but they died in 2018. So I'm alone. You have us? Mom said, whatever you were before, whatever name you had, you're our daughter. You've been our daughter for 21 years. But you lied to me about everything. We lied to protect you, Dad said. Every decision we made was to keep you safe, to give you a normal life. A normal life. I laughed bitterly. I'm a genetically modified government weapon. How is that normal? You're a person, Emma said firmly. Handsed or not, you're a person with thoughts and feelings and the right to choose your own path. Oh. If the government considers me property, if they have the legal right to recall me, then what rights do I actually have? We're not going to let them take you, Dad said. We have a plan. What plan? We leave tonight. All of us. We have new identities prepared, money in offshore accounts, and a place to go where they'll never find us. All of us. Yes, Mom said. We're a family. We stick together. But what about your lives? Dad's law practice, Mom's foundation, David's medical career, Emma's PhD. None of that matters more than you, David said. We've failed you once by not telling you the truth. We won't fail you again. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a flicker of something other than despair. These people, whatever. Lies they'd told, whatever secrets they'd kept, were willing to sacrifice everything for me. Maybe they weren't my biological family, but they were my family in every way that mattered. Where would we go? New Zealand, Dad said. We have contacts there who can help us start over. New identities, new lives. And we'd never be able to come back. Probably not. I looked around the room at these people who had shaped my life, who had loved me despite knowing what I was. What if I don't want to run? What do you mean? What if I want to know more? What if I want to find out about the other subjects, about what really happened to them? Sarah, that's too dangerous, Emma said. If they find out you're investigating, ... They're already going to kill me, I said. At least if I fight back, I might learn the truth about who I am. You know who you are, Mom said. You're Sarah Mitchell, our daughter. But I'm also Emma Rose Sullivan, I said. And I'm subject 47. I need to know what that means. Michael's words sent a chill down my spine. The idea that someone was profiting from the same technology that had been used to turn children into weapons was horrifying. But it also meant that running away wouldn't solve anything. They would. keep coming after me until I was dead. Who would do that? I asked someone with access to the original research and a complete lack of conscience, Michael said. My contact thinks it's someone high up in the Defense Department. Maybe someone who was involved in the original program. Do they have names? Not yet, but they're working on it. The problem is that most of the records from Prometheus were classified or destroyed. Not all of them, I said, thinking about the folder my father had shown me. My family has some documentation. It could be helpful. My contact wants to meet with you. When? Tomorrow night. After you report to the recall location. You want me to go through with reporting? It's the only way to get inside information about what they're planning. If you run now, we'll never know who's behind this or how to stop them. I studied his face, looking for any sign that he was having second thoughts about being involved in this dangerous game. But his expression was determined, almost excited. The accountant I'd fallen in love with was gone, replaced by someone who seemed energized by the prospect of fighting a conspiracy. This isn't a game, Michael. They discover I'm investigating, they'll kill me. They're planning to kill you anyway, he said. At least this way, you might be able to stop them from killing others. Others. Think about it, Sarah. If they're selling the enhancement technology, they'll need new subjects to test it on. More children, more families destroyed. The thought made my stomach turn. Emma Rose Sullivan had been taken from her family and turned into a weapon. If I didn't fight back, the same thing would happen to other children. What exactly are you suggesting? Go to the recall location tomorrow morning. Act compliant, gather intelligence, and get out. Then we meet with my contact and figure out how to expose this whole thing. And if I can't get out, then we come get you. We, your family, and me. We're not leaving you behind. I looked at this man who had been willing to walk away from everything he'd built for me. Why are you doing this? Because I love you, he said simply. And because someone needs to stop these people. You could get killed. So could you. So could your family. So could innocent children, if we don't act. You're asking me to be a hero. I'm asking you to be yourself. The Sarah I know wouldn't run while other people suffered. He was right, and I hated him for it. The enhancement might have made me stronger and faster, but it was my human heart that made me care about justice. Emma Rose Sullivan had been stolen from her family, but Sarah Mitchell had been raised by people who taught her to fight for what was right. Okay, I said. I'll do it. Are you sure? No, but I'm going to do it anyway. Michael smiled for the first time since he'd arrived. That's my girl. We spent the rest of the evening planning. Michael would drive me to the recall location but stay hidden nearby. I would go in wearing a wire his contact had provided, gather as much information as possible, and signal for extraction if things went wrong. The recall location was a nondescript office building downtown, the kind of place that could house anything from insurance companies to government agencies. According to the letter, I was supposed to report to Suite 1247 at 9 a.m. What if they search me and find the wire? I asked. It's designed to look like a medical device, Michael said. If they ask, tell them it's for monitoring your heart rate. Because of stress. What if they don't believe me? Then you improvise. You're enhanced, remember? You can adapt to situations faster than normal people. I'm still scared. Good fear will keep you alive. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Emma Rose Sullivan, wondering what she had been like before the program took her. Had she been artistic like me? Had she loved her parents? Had she been afraid when they took her? I also thought about the other subjects, the ones who hadn't survived. How many children had died on operating tables or in recovery rooms? How many had been eliminated later when they became inconvenient? How many families had been destroyed by this program? At 8:30 a.m., Michael drove me to the office building. He parked across the street where he could watch the entrance. Remember, he said, you're just gathering information. Don't try to be a hero. I'll be careful. I love you too. I kissed him goodbye, wondering if it might be the last time Then I walked across the street and into the building. The lobby was typical office building, sterile marble floors, generic art on the walls, a security desk staffed by a bored-looking guard who barely glanced at me as I signed. The elevator took me to the 12th floor, where Suite 1247 was located at the end of a long hallway. The door was unmarked except for the number. I knocked and waited. "Come in," a voice called. I opened the door and stepped into what looked like a medical office. There were examination tables, cabinets full of equipment, and that antiseptic smell that reminded me of my childhood hospital stays. A woman in a white coat stood with her back to me, examining something on a computer screen. She was tall, blonde, probably in her 50s, with the kind of authoritative bearing that suggested she was used to being obeyed. "Subject 47, she said without turning around. "You're exactly on time." "My name is Sarah Mitchell. Your name is whatever we decide it is," she said, finally turning to face me. "I'm Dr. Patricia Vance. I'll be conducting your evaluation." "Evaluation for what?" "To determine your current level of enhancement and your suitability for the new program. Please have a seat on the examination table." I sat down, every instinct screaming at me to run. But I needed information, and this woman seemed willing to talk. "What happened to the other subjects?" I asked. Dr. Vance smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Most of them served their purpose and were retired. Their enhancements began to deteriorate over time. We learned a great deal from their experiences. "You mean they died? They fulfilled their function?" she said, pulling on latex gloves. "Now let's see how well you've maintained your modifications." She began examining me with instruments I didn't recognize, taking measurements, drawing blood, testing my reflexes with equipment that seemed far more advanced than anything I'd seen in a normal doctor's office. "Your enhancement levels are remarkable," she said, studying a readout on her computer. "Subject 47 was always our most successful case." "Why was I successful when others weren't?" "Genetic compatibility, mostly. You had the right markers for accepting the modifications. Plus, you were young enough when we started that your body adapted completely." "Started when I was 4. "Oh, we started much earlier than that," she said casually, as if discussing the weather. "The initial modifications were done when you were 18 months old." My blood turned to ice. 18 months. We had to begin the process early for optimal integration. "Your parents weren't actually killed in a home invasion?" Subject 47. "They were eliminated because they discovered what we were doing to you." The room spun around me. My real parents hadn't died in a random crime. They'd been murdered because they'd tried to protect me. You killed them. The program killed them. I merely supervised your subsequent development. You monster. "A scientist," she said, injecting something into my arm before I could react. "And you're about to help us perfect the next generation of enhancements." I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't obey. Whatever she'd injected was spreading through my system, making me weak and disoriented. "What did you give me?" "A neural inhibitor. It temporarily suppresses your enhanced abilities so we can transport you safely." "Transport me where?" "To the new facility. We're going to extract your enhancement matrix and use it to create improved subjects." "Extract it?" "The process is fatal, unfortunately. But your sacrifice will help us create an entire army of enhanced soldiers." I tried to fight the drug, but my vision was blurring. The wire Michael had given me felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds against my chest. "Michael," I whispered, hoping he could hear me somehow. "Your boyfriend." Dr. Vance laughed. "It's already being dealt with." "Did you really think we didn't know about your little plan?" Terror gave me a burst of strength. "What did you do to him?" "Nothing permanent yet. But if you don't cooperate, he'll join your adoptive family in a very unfortunate accident." "My family?" "They're currently being held at a secure location. Their safety depends entirely on your compliance." I was trapped. Even if I could overcome the drug, even if I could fight my way out of here, they had the people I loved. I was going to die, and there was nothing I could do about it. Why tell me all this? I asked, struggling to stay conscious. Because I want you to understand the magnitude of what you're contributing to. Your enhancements will be used to create the next generation of American military superiority. You should be proud. Proud that you murdered my parents. Proud that you turned me into a weapon. Proud that you're going to help us turn others into even better weapons. The room was getting darker, but I could hear voices in the hallway. Men talking about transport schedules and extraction procedures. How many others are there? I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. Others like you? You're the last. The others were less cooperative. You killed them all. We harvested what we could from them. But you, Subject 47, you're the prize. Your enhancement matrix is complete, stable, and incredibly powerful. You're insane. I'm visionary. In 10 years, every American soldier will have capabilities that make your enhancements look primitive. And how many children will you murder to make that happen? As many as necessary. The door opened and 2 men in military uniforms entered. They looked like special forces, hard faces, efficient movements, the kind of men who followed orders without question. Subject is ready for transport, Dr. Vance told them. Wait, I said, my voice barely audible. I have information. About other programs? Other subjects. Dr. Vance paused. What kind of information? There's a network. Underground, people who've been tracking government programs like this one. Names. I'll trade you information for my family's safety. You're not in a position to negotiate. I'm the only one who knows. Kill me, and the information dies with me. She studied my face, trying to determine if I was bluffing. I was, but the enhancement was helping me maintain a convincing facade even through the drug. Very well, she said finally. Tell me what you know, and I'll consider sparing your family. Michael's contact. It's former military intelligence. He's been building a database of illegal programs. His name? Colonel James Morrison. He's been investigating Prometheus for 3 years. Dr. Vance's expression changed. Morrison is dead. He was killed in a car accident 2 weeks ago, along with his entire research team. My heart sank. Michael's contact was dead, which meant we'd walked into this trap completely blind. You're lying. I never lie about operational details. Colonel, Morrison was getting too close to the truth, so he was eliminated. Then who is Michael working with? Michael is working with us, she said with a smile. He's been our inside man for months. The words hit me like a physical blow. Michael, the man I'd planned to marry, the man I'd trusted with my heart, was working with the people who wanted to kill me. No, I whispered, he loves me. He loves his country more, Dr. Vance said. When we approached him 6 months ago and explained what you were, he immediately agreed to help us monitor you. That's impossible. It's been reporting on your daily activities, your emotional state, your relationships. Even helped us plan this extraction. The wire transmits directly to our monitoring station. We've been listening to everything you've said since yesterday. Felt sick. Every moment of what I thought was love and support had been a lie. Michael had been watching me, studying me, preparing me for slaughter. Why? I asked, my voice breaking. 'Cause he's a patriot. He understands that sometimes individual sacrifice is necessary for the greater good. I'm not a threat to anyone. You're an uncontrolled weapon. Do you have any idea what you're capable of when fully activated? Fully activated? Your enhancements have been dormant for years, suppressed by psychological conditioning. But in times of extreme stress or danger, they can fully manifest. You could kill dozens of people without even trying. I would never hurt anyone. You wouldn't have a choice. The combat protocols are hardwired into your brain. In a life or death situation, you become a killing machine. I thought about the painting I'd done the night before, how my hand had moved with inhuman precision, how I'd always been able to learn skills impossibly fast, see in the dark, heal quickly. What else was I capable of? That's why you have to be eliminated, Dr. Vance continued. You're too dangerous to live, but too valuable to waste. Your enhancement matrix will help us create controllable subjects. Controllable? The next generation will have built-in kill switches, remote termination capabilities. They'll be weapons that can be turned on and off at will. The horror of what she was describing made me want to scream. They were going to create an army of enhanced soldiers who could be murdered by remote control if they became inconvenient. You're talking about? Slavery, I'm talking about national security. The men moved closer, preparing to lift me onto a stretcher. I had to do something, but the drug was making it impossible to think clearly. My family, I said. You promised to spare them. I promised to consider it. I've considered it. No, too much. They're innocent. They're liabilities. Please. Your adoptive family served their purpose. They raised you, kept you stable, provided emotional support that helped your enhancements develop properly. But that phase is over. You're going to kill them. Regrettably, yes, but quickly and painlessly. I'll never know what happened. And Michael will be reassigned. It's proven very useful in operations like this. How many others? Oh, many other subjects has he helped us capture. 7. Over the past 2 years, I stared at her in disbelief. Michael hadn't just betrayed me. He'd been hunting people like me for years. Every kiss, every moment of intimacy, every declaration of love had been part of his job. The engagement, his idea. He thought it would make you more compliant, more trusting. He was right. I hate you, I said, tears streaming down my face. You hate me now. But in a few hours you'll be unconscious, and then you'll be dead. You feel won't matter. The men lifted me onto the stretcher and began wheeling me toward the door. I tried to fight, but my enhanced strength was completely suppressed by the drug. Wait, I said, desperately trying to think of something, anything that might save me. What now? The extraction process? How do you know it will work? We've tested it on the other subjects, but they weren't as enhanced as me. What if my matrix is too integrated to extract safely? Then we'll learn from the failure. What if I can give you something better? She paused. What could you possibly offer? My cooperation. Willing cooperation. You're dying anyway. Your cooperation is irrelevant. But what if I could help you? Improve the process. What if I could tell you how the enhancements feel from the inside, how they work, how they could be refined? You're stalling. I'm trying to contribute to science. Isn't that what you want? Dr. Vance studied me for a long moment. You have 5 minutes? The enhancements aren't just physical, I said, buying time and hoping someone somewhere might help me. They're psychological. They change how you think, how you perceive reality. Explain. The intuitive adaptation Emma mentioned. It's not just about learning skills faster. It's about seeing patterns others miss, understanding connections that aren't obvious. What kind of connections? Like the connection between you and the person selling enhancement technology to foreign governments. Her face went pale. What are you talking about? You're not just extracting my enhancements for American soldiers. You're selling them to the highest bidder. That's absurd. That's it? You said yourself that you're visionary. So what's more visionary than cornering the market on enhanced soldiers? You're fishing, am I? Or am I seeing a pattern you thought you'd hidden? Dr. Vance's phone rang. She answered it, stepping away from the stretcher. What do you mean there's a problem? She said into the phone. Oh, the subject is secure. What do you mean they're gone? She hung up and turned to me with fury in her eyes. Your family escaped custody. What? They overpowered their guards and disappeared. Along with your boyfriend? Michael escaped too. Apparently your boyfriend wasn't as cooperative as we thought. Hope flared in my chest. Maybe Michael hadn't betrayed me after all. Maybe he'd been playing a deeper game. You're lying. I wish I were. This complicates things considerably. How they know where you are? They'll try to rescue you. And that's bad for you because this facility is supposed to be secret. If they involve law enforcement or media, your whole operation gets exposed. Exactly. She turned to the men. Change of plans. We're moving to the backup location immediately. What backup location? Somewhere your family will never find you. They wheeled me out of the office and into a service elevator. As we descended, I tried to think. If Michael and my family had escaped, they might still be trying to save me. But they didn't know about the neural inhibitor or the backup facility. The elevator opened onto a parking garage. A black van was waiting, its engine running. "Load her up," Dr. Vance ordered DOT. As they transferred me to the van, I caught a glimpse of something that made my heart race. Michael's car, parked behind a concrete pillar. He was here, watching, waiting. But what could he do against armed men and a doctor who'd been planning this for months? The van moved through the city streets with practiced efficiency. I lay strapped to a medical gurney, the neural inhibitor making every movement feel like swimming through thick syrup. Dr. Vance sat beside me, monitoring my vital signs on a portable device. "Where are we going?" I asked. "The original Prometheus facility. We've reactivated it for special cases like yours. The greenhouse. Do you remember? Fragments, nightmares." They weren't nightmares. They were memories. Your mind tried to suppress. As she spoke, images began flooding back. White walls, endless corridors, the smell of antiseptic and fear. Children crying in rooms that looked like hospital chambers but felt like prisons. The woman in the white coat who would come to take us away, one by one. "You were there," I said, the memory crystallizing. "You were the one who took the others. I was the head researcher. I supervised every enhancement procedure. The children who didn't survive, what happened to them? Some couldn't handle the genetic modifications. Others rejected the neural implants. A few simply broke. Lost their minds. The human psyche isn't designed to process enhanced sensory input or accelerated cognitive function." We learned to screen for mental resilience after losing several subjects to complete psychotic breaks. You drove children insane. We pushed the boundaries of human evolution. Some casualties were inevitable. I closed my eyes, trying to remember more. There had been other children. A boy with dark hair who could see through walls. A girl who never seemed to sleep. Twins who could communicate without speaking. "Happened to the twins?" I asked. Subjects 23 and 24. Were terminated when they began developing telepathic abilities we couldn't control. You killed them because they were too successful. We killed them because they were reading our minds. It's compromising operational security. They were children. They were weapons that had become too dangerous to maintain. The van turned onto a highway, heading out of the city. Through the small window, I could see we were traveling north, toward the mountains where the original facility had been hidden. "How long will the extraction take?" I asked. "The preparation phase will take several hours. We need to map your neural pathways, catalog your enhancement matrix, and prepare the extraction chamber. And then we remove your enhancements and preserve them for replication. The process typically takes about 6 hours. Typically, you're the first subject with your level of integration. You may need to be more ... thorough. Do you mean it might take longer for me to die? The extraction might be more complex. We can't afford to damage the enhancement matrix." I tried to move my arms, but the restraints held firm. The neural inhibitor was still suppressing my enhanced abilities, but I could feel something stirring deep in my mind. A presence that felt foreign yet familiar. "The combat protocols you mentioned," I said, "are they active now? Not while you're under the influence of the inhibitor. But in a few hours, when we begin the extraction process, we'll need to remove the inhibitor. That's when you'll become dangerous." What exactly happens when the combat protocols activate? Enhanced reflexes, increased strength, accelerated healing, heightened sensory perception. And most importantly, complete emotional suppression. Emotional suppression. You become incapable of feeling fear, hesitation, or remorse. You exist, only to eliminate threats. I become a monster, You become a perfect soldier. The van slowed and turned onto a dirt road. Through the window, I could see tall pine trees and rocky outcroppings. We were in the mountains now, far from any populated areas. No one will find you here, Dr. Vance said, noticing my gaze. This facility is buried 3 levels underground. It's completely isolated. My family will look for me. If your family is currently being hunted by federal agents, they won't have time to mount a rescue operation. Federal agents, when they escaped custody, they became fugitives, harboring a government asset, interfering with a classified operation, assaulting federal officers. They're looking at life in prison if they're caught. They're not criminals. They became criminals the moment they chose to protect you over their country. Their country turned their daughter into a weapon. Their country gave them a daughter. In the first place, you would have died in that Montana facility if we hadn't placed you with the Mitchells. You didn't save me. You used me. We gave you 21 years of life you wouldn't have had otherwise. Most subjects don't survive past adolescence because you kill them when they become inconvenient. Because the enhancement process has a limited lifespan. If your body is breaking down. Subject 47. The genetic modifications are beginning to fail. What do you mean? The enhancement matrix isn't permanent. It requires constant maintenance, regular updates to the neural pathways, periodic genetic adjustments. Without them, your enhanced abilities will fade and your body will begin to reject the modifications. How long do I have? Without intervention? Perhaps 6 months. With intervention, you could live for years. What kind of intervention? Complete enhancement, reconstruction. We strip away the failing modifications and replace them with improved versions. And that's what you're planning to do. That's what we were planning to do. But the enhanced individuals we've created over the past few years have been increasingly unstable. The modifications are becoming too complex for the human brain to process. So you're giving up on enhancement. We're changing our approach. Instead of enhancing existing humans, we're creating new ones from scratch. What? Genetic engineering from conception. Designer babies with built-in enhancements programmed for specific military functions. You're talking about breeding soldiers? We're talking about ending warfare as we know it. Imagine an army of enhanced soldiers who never question orders, never feel fear, never experience doubt. You're talking about creating slaves. We're talking about creating peace through superior firepower. The van stopped. I heard the engine turn off, then the sound of voices outside. Dr. Vance gathered her equipment and checked her watch. "We're here," she said. "Try to cooperate during the preparation phase. It will make the extraction less painful. For me or for you? For both of us." The van doors opened and I was wheeled out onto a concrete platform. In front of us stood what looked like a maintenance shed, but I could see it was just camouflage. The real facility was underground. Dr. Vance pressed her hand against a scanner and part of the concrete floor began to slide away, revealing an elevator shaft. We descended into darkness, going deeper than I'd expected. 3 levels down, she said. Level 1 is administration and housing. Level 2 is research and development. Level 3 is where we'll be working, the extraction chamber, among other things. The elevator stopped at level 3, and the doors opened onto a corridor that looked exactly like my nightmares. White walls, fluorescent lighting, the smell of antiseptic and something else. Something organic and wrong. The smell, I said, enhanced. Subjects have heightened senses. You're detecting the preservation chemicals we use for the enhancement matrices. Preservation chemicals? We've been extracting and preserving enhancements for 5 years. Your matrix will join a collection of nearly 40 others. You have 40 enhancement matrices from subjects all over the world. The program was never limited to America. You're telling me there are enhanced individuals in other countries? Or most of them are dead now. You killed them all. We harvested them all. The enhancement technology is too valuable to leave in the hands of foreign governments. We're talking about mass murder. We're talking about national security. They wheeled me into a room that looked like a high-tech medical facility crossed with a torture chamber. There were examination tables, computer monitors, and devices I didn't recognize but that filled me with instinctive dread. "This is where you'll spend your final hours," Dr. Vance said. "Suggest you use them to make peace with your situation." "I'll never make peace with this. You will when the extraction begins." The pain tends to focus the mind wonderfully. She left me alone, with 2 guards while she went to prepare the equipment. I lay on the examination table, staring at the ceiling, trying to think of some way to escape. The neural inhibitor was still suppressing my enhanced abilities, but I could feel them stirring beneath the surface. Something was fighting the drug, trying to break through. The combat protocols Dr. Vance had mentioned, were they autonomous? Could they activate on their own if I was in sufficient danger? I closed my eyes and tried to remember the other enhanced individuals I'd known as a DHN. As a child, the boy who could see through walls, the girl who never slept, the twins who could read minds. What had their abilities felt like from the inside? As I concentrated, I began to feel something changing. The drug was still in my system, but it was fighting against something stronger. Something that had been dormant for years was beginning to wake up. The lights in the room flickered, and one of the guards looked around nervously. "Power fluctuation," the other guard said. "Happens all the time down here." But I knew it wasn't a power fluctuation. It was me. The enhancement matrix was beginning to activate.